What's good, listeners? Our guest on Just Talking is Elizabeth Trieu, the actress in the new fantasy horror film, Erzulie. And as we get her audio and video on in, we got the one and only Elizabeth Trieu. How's it going, fam?
What's up?
Yay!
What's up?
There you are. Hello.
How you doing? Everything good? I know you had to make a venture from LA area to San Diego. So you good? You ready?
So far so good, except we went to like a meet and greet thing at a brewery last night and I lost my favorite sunglasses.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's happened to me.
That's a no bueno, especially when
Have
you go to San Diego.
Have you tried to call them to see if it's there?
I have. I'm like calling the busing company, calling the brewery, and I'm like, excuse me. And then
they're like, ma'am, we don't have your $6.99 sunglasses.
No, someone straight came up. Someone came up and is happy. You made somebody else's day.
I know that you lost your sunglasses, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Sorry, Elizabeth. You're going to have to save that for another conversation with your peers. But let's set the tone. Let's get ready to let the people know what's good. So, Marissa, if you're ready, let's play that teaser now of Erzulie.
Come on, Slowpokes! Party at the river!
Oh, yeah. I wish I could wave a magic wand over all my problems, make them go away too. I don't think it works that way.
Mother of waters, receive this earth and know my journey. Receive this blood. Know my desire. Send your daughter to bless me. Send your daughter, Erzulie. Erzulie!
Erzulie! It's definitely a spooky tale that you guys definitely got to check out, because I'll set up the premise for you, Elizabeth. But a reunion between four friends goes haywire when they find themselves face to face with the swamp mermaid goddess Erzulie. And I know you guys sort of had like between your cast members, like which way to pronounce it. How do you pronounce it?
Erzulie.
Erzulie. Okay, well, how was everybody else pronouncing it?
Erzulie.
Like Chris.
Yeah, exactly.
Erzulie. I tried helping him earlier. Elizabeth, I tried helping him earlier, but he was stuck with it that way.
That's true, because I had to feel stuck, because you know how you can go to the Google search bar, you can type in how to pronounce Erzulie. That's how
Erzulie.
The beta would say
it. Just quicker, homie.
but we want to know from you, Elizabeth, what did you want to be? Why did you want to be a part of this film?
Well, so this is my third film working with Christine Chen. I did 2 short films with her in Austin when I was living there. And she actually, which is what a gift, she wrote this character with me in mind.
Ooh, that's always the best.
It is always a blessing, you know? And it's funny because like the last one we did together, we shot at my house and it was like a bachelorette party or whatever. But she's in my phone as mom, because in one of the scenes, mom is calling and she was calling from her actual phone, but it had to show up on my phone as mom. So she's still in my phone
you just
as
left
mom.
it.
Yeah, I've just left it that way. And
so what is your mom on your phone then?
Yeah,
my
right.
mom is deceased.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay, but it's funny because I'm always like, oh,
like
if I want to share anything, I'm like, Mom, guess what? And I'm like, Christine.
That's actually kind of cool. Kind of bringing that tie back together. Yeah.
Totally. So, I mean, that's a huge part of it. And, you know, I love that there's like a strong female ensemble. And as much as I was connected to mermaids before, like you know, who doesn't love The Little Mermaid? But like now, just like with the mythology, everything that, and like for the characters to all come from like trauma and try and like work through it together, I think it was like really beautiful. And like Christine and Camille like wrote this film like in under a year and made it, you know, and fundraised in like under however many months. And like we made it during the pandemic. And of course, like when someone calls you up and it's like, I wrote a film and I wrote a role for you. And if you haven't worked, you know, who had worked, right? So it was like my first acting job back after breaking my knee, getting broken up with, like after being engaged, and then like first job moving to LA, even though we shot in Louisiana.
well, how do you stay grounded? How do you stay focused to pursue the next role when you got all these kind of life-changing things happening in your personal life?
I think that, like I said, my both my parents are deceased. I was adopted, and I think that the people that have been in my life that I continue to surround myself with are family. Like all my friends are family to me. And after working with Christine on these other 2 shorts and then going into this, and like she's Chinese and we're both Asian. I think it's trying to figure out how to be like Asian woman in the industry is hard. And plus, because I was adopted, I'm like very seemingly whitewashed. They call me a
I was about to ask, were you adopted
by
Caucasian parents, or were you also from another Chinese Asian parents?
Caucasian parents. So I know we're kind of, I'm all over the place, but my dad and my uncle came over as refugees in the late 70s. And then my dad wasn't old enough to live alone. So he had a sponsor family take care of him. And essentially, like when he got pregnant, my dad got pregnant with me. He, in his belly. No, but like when my parents got pregnant, my mom was diagnosed with leukemia, and both of them asked the sponsor family if they could help assist in taking care of me. And then that translated to they became full-time parents.
That's wild. I think that is so cool that you had that support line in your career to become an actress, Totally.
But to answer your question, I think what has kept me grounded is one, I feel like I've lost most of what's important to me. And I hate to say that, but my parents, one of my best friends, this is why I'm in San Diego. I'm at this osteosarcoma conference. My best friend died at like 19, but so I've lost a lot of important people in my life, and it's been challenging, but at the same time, I've learned gratitude. I have nothing to lose really. And
but Elizabeth,
I have a sense of humor about everything too.
And it definitely sounds like that. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is because, I got lucky enough to speak with you before the show, and you were telling me about how you accept 9 out of the 10 films coming your way. Is that something that, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what makes you say no to a project if you're taking on 9 out of the 10 projects? Do you
Right. I mean, I guess mainly just nudity, but I'm not afraid of nudity. It's just a matter of
does it work for the scene, or are we just seeing boobs because the guy wants to see boobs?
Right.
Actually, I did just audition for a film, and it was the casting director cast The Hangover, and I was like, okay, and I was looking at the names behind it, and I was like, this looks like a big film and probably really funny, hopefully. But in the breakdown, it was must be comfortable showing your ass because someone will be blowing coke off of your rear end. And I was like, well, I mean, the writing's fine. I was like, it's probably
so funny. With that being said, Elizabeth, what do you feel is more important as an actress, the talent or training?
I mean, I guess the talent, but they all go hand in hand, right? I mean,
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, some people feel like you got to go to acting school to be pursuant to your career. Or do you feel like it comes by nature? Because, a lot of the times you hear a lot of these casting directors kind of speak out and saying they want a little bit of personality from you. What have you known from your experience as an Asian actress in this industry?
I think it definitely comes from life experiences. And I think training definitely helps. But, I grew up in Dallas in a very well-to-do, predominantly white neighborhood, and so I was always, and I had white parents, right? But I also had a window into my Chinese side of the family that lived in the outskirts of Dallas, but I never felt like I fit in. I couldn't figure out who I was or what I was, and so I didn't feel supported or really feel like I understood my craft until my parents got sick, and then I was in LA, and there was nothing casting for me in the 2009 to 12. So when my dad died, I was like, you know what? I'm going to move to New York. And there's obviously a scene there. And then I got into a class with this wizard, Anthony Abeson. And, he calls us motherfuckers. It's just, it's very endearing, but also that was a class where I felt was safe and it wasn't culty. I mean, we call each other Abesonites. So there is that, right? And in Austin, I took a class with this woman, Laurel Vouvray, and there are the Laurel Lights. So there is something about the community that's created in an acting class that either is super
that you're not necessarily going to get if you just arrive on set, just trying to come in with a fresh, clean slate and just say, hey, let's just figure this out. Because I wanted to know from you, how do you fully understand the importance of your character? And let's take, for example, Violet Burns. in your latest film. Erzulie, how did you approach that character?
Can you say it 10 times?
Just say 10
no,
times.
no, I'm not. I'm actually going to politely say no.
Well, she comes from trauma where she's thinks about her attacker, which is a family member too, and going into it, and I don't like, of all of the cast members, I'm the smallest, and yet like I have a jujitsu background, and I teach class, and I'm always like, I feel like I've got eyes in the back of my head, waiting to fight, and so, and I think that that's in my nature anyway. Like I love protecting the people that I love because I've lost so many, and so I think that was the approach, and like as I'm trying to like overcome my fears of being in love with my best friend Zoe, or like and again like being a gay Asian woman, which I think is, I'm so grateful that like we're more comfortable with coming out these days, but like I played into culturally what is acceptable in Asian culture, and then also just what's been changing.
Yeah, and absolutely. And Elizabeth, how did you get started in the entertainment industry? I mean, what's been your journey like going into show business?
Well, Chris, I took drama class at like after school care when I was a kid, and I just remember like that we would build barricades with chairs, and like I don't know why we were in a war zone at like age 5 or 6, but like
okay.
We'd be like hiding and be like, the bears are coming, and like that was. I love.
So you're saying by first nature is just being a kid first, and then when you can bring some of that element into your adult life when you become an actor, did you feel like that helps? Did you feel like that helped you prepare for your role in this film that we're promoting today?
So I'm just gonna go back to the kids. So it was that until I saw Annie Get Your Gun, and I was like, what a badass, I'm like. So that was like the first real show that I saw where I was like, I want to be an actor. And I grew up watching like Shirley Temple movies and like tap dancing to the TV, and I think, like I said, it's like then I kind of just chose the path. It was like I loved painting, and people would always feel like you're such a great artist, but like I loved performing even if I was afraid of it. And then I think that's what I pursued in
I
school.
guess what
like,
I'm trying to get at though, Elizabeth, is it's like are you represented? Do you have an agent? Like how did you get to the position that you're at today? Because I want you to kind of spill some of the beans, because I'm sure there's a lot of young talent that's tuning in right now to the Chris Collins Show Millennial Talk Show, and they want to know what are some of those advice when you get into the room with the potential agent. What would you tell them?
It was a lot of trial and error. Okay, I did I came out to LA, tried to do Chapman University, and then I worried about student loans, and I was like, what am I doing? This is before Uber though, and I didn't have a car out here. So I went back to Texas, and I got a theater degree from UT in Austin. And once I graduated, I moved back to LA, and I was like, okay, I have the chops. I had black and white headshots. No one told me, like I didn't learn any of the business side of things in undergrad.
That's my problem with so much undergrad. So they do not prepare people to actually come out and act. In
any capacity. And like, to be honest, hook 'em horns, I do bleed burnt orange, but there was no point of me getting a theater degree because one, I know kids that weren't even in shows. They graduated with a BA in theater and dance and had never been on a main stage.
Nothing on the resume. That is kind of mind-boggling.
And I would hope that they've changed it, but like, again, didn't have the confidence, but had the degree. So, I have a famed degree. Great. Perfect. Came out to LA. Yeah. I think like I got on Backstage, like the website, and started looking up agents and managers.
That's so funny.
And whatever.
That was my first step too. When I came in acting, I was like, oh, Backstage West.
Totally. Exactly. But, and then like there's such a big Rolodex, and you're like, I'm going to shoot for CAA or WP. Like, no. And so I ended up with a boutique agency called Beverly Hecht, and I'm still in touch with my first agent. And he like has 2 cats and wears cat shirts, and like I just have like an affinity of love for him. But there were barely any roles for me, and I got like maybe a couple indie film auditions, but like I felt so voiceless.
Is that why you felt like you wanted to take on 9 out of the 10 roles, because you felt like you needed to build up your resume?
Yes, but I also feel like, I got into an acting class that was an unhealthy acting class, actually. And I think that really contributed to me not feeling supported then. But at least I was acting and we did a couple shows, but like inappropriate, like Me Too shit where I am surprised he's still teaching. I won't out him, but like if I see him in person, I will point my finger at this age and say, shame on you.
I definitely hear you, Elizabeth. And I do want to bring up something because when we spoke earlier, you were telling me about your experience recently applying for a gig at NBC. And before you even auditioned, the casting director made you fill out a questionnaire form. Could you explain to the listeners what happened?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's a casting, but yeah, there was like a survey of like, how do you identify, or, you know, what are your pronouns essentially? And like, even what are your sexual preferences? But I think it was just a matter of like, yeah, how do you identify? Because now people want to be so on the nose of what we are. But I think it has become so precious that like, as artists, it's like, we're afraid to be other things. Because again, like I play in LGBT in Erzulie and actually 3 projects I've played a female gay woman, and like there's nothing wrong with that. I think love is love, but right now, and we talked about it the other day, I feel like Asian women are also getting put in a box, and so every network TV show where I see an Asian who has any sort of lead character is gay, and I'm like, well,
they're just checking off like, oh, I can get
they're checking
2 out
off
of
a
this.
box.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
there's my 3 boxes. 3 boxes with 1 actor.
Yeah, because Elizabeth and Marissa, I wanted to inform both of you on this. I had no idea about this. I actually looked this up along with my producer because we started to think about Backstage.com. And as of last July, Backstage expanded their list of gender options to 27 gender identities. I can't even name more than 10, but they include the ability to add a gender not listed. So casting directors tend to look for confidence, preparation, and personality. But from your experience as of recently, do you feel like that has changed?
I mean, yes, but I also feel like as much as I have control or I'm trying to like pitch that I'm this one thing, back to my experience of like managers, agents coming out to LA, like back then I felt like I had no control and I was helpless. Then I moved to New York, got in class, like also was surrounded by people of color. And in Texas, like all my friends were white, let's be honest. And then, you know, and then I left New York and I worked with someone, but like never got signed. It was like, well, we're, you know, if you book something, then we'll consider signing, but it never happened. And then I went to Austin and was like, okay, big fish, small pond. And there are only so many agencies in Texas, join them. And then I was like, I'm going to be the Asian person, right, in Austin that they cast. But I think back to your question now, it's like, I feel like if I get anything that comes through where the writing is any good, why not audition for it? Because the next thing is the callback, and then you have the conversations with the writer or with the director, and then you get another feel for what people think and what the project really means and what your character's contribution is.
And a working actor is more desirable than one who is so picky that they never work. And then you're kind of like, how come you haven't been in a film in 5 years if you're not Daniel Day-Lewis? He does one every 5 years, but he's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Exactly. But I do think that there's a trap, right? Like there are certain projects that you know are just going to go to festivals or go straight to VOD, and I think fests are great, but at the same time, like that just becomes a community of support. And it's like, if you want to really be a working actor, I think you do have to be in the big cities.
I think that's so true, Elizabeth Trieu, no pun intended. But hey, I want to thank you again for joining the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show, and let the CCS family know what's good. Where can the listeners check out your brand new film today?
Oh, it's on Apple TV. I think it's on Amazon. There's a whole list. If you go to my Instagram, it's Trufio, like Rufio.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be definitely tagging you right after the show. We'll make it real easy for the CCS family. But hey, go check it out. Erzulie Film today. Thank you again, Elizabeth.